Guys, welcome to the Retro Ranger Wrap-Up.
Woo!
I'm Joe.
I'm DJ.
And I'm Kelly.
So Kelly's a new addition to this show. We're going to be talking about Day of the Dumpster, Episode 1 proper, from Season 1 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And the reason why Kelly's here is because, you know, you dabbled in Power Rangers when growing up.
Growing up, I watched the Power Rangers, but it's been a long time since I've seen it.
So we wanted to go back and do these retro reviews with fresh eyes.
Yes.
That's why Kelly's here. She will be a fixture on this show at this point forward.
Kelly is those eyes.
I am the eyes.
She's the eyes.
The eyes of the Ranger Wrap-Up. But yeah, we are going to be talking about Day of the Dumpster, Episode 1. Kelly,
Yes, sir.
when is the last time you saw an episode of Power Rangers?
Oh, it's been a couple decades.
Decades?
Yeah.
Damn.
It's been a while. But, you know, I'm surrounded by tons of people who love Power Rangers.
Like who?
Surrounded.
Like
who?
literally right now.
Like, what are you talking
Literally
about?
surrounded. But I have close friends. My boyfriend watches Power Rangers. So
Adam watches Power
he
Rangers?
does. He watches Power Rangers.
Shout out to Adam.
Yeah, shout out to Adam.
Big shout out to Adam.
That's crazy.
Did you ever have a favorite Power Ranger?
Well, yeah, the pink one.
All right, we gotta get into that. Come on.
I had my mom bought me a little pink Power Ranger nightgown that
That's
I would
awesome.
wear every night.
That's
Really?
awesome.
Yes.
That's great.
How come your mom
I
didn't
loved
show me
it.
those pictures when we were flipping through the family album that one day?
She has tons of photos. I mean, whatever is on top of the book, she shows. But yeah, I loved it, but I've only seen the first season. I have
Well,
not seen any other seasons.
We're starting at the first season, so it's
Yes.
apropos that we start
Refreshing.
there. Let's get into the episode.
This day is too weird. What do we do now?
Zordon said these power morphers will give us power. Let's do it! Mastodon!
Pterodactyl!
Triceratops!
Saber-tooth tiger!
Tyrannosaurus!
What a blast from the past, dude. That's 24 years ago or something.
Yes.
This is where it all began.
This is officially where it all began. Now, let's start by talking, Kelly, from your experience, the first scene. I want to break this down in terms of like, because this is, listen, I'm not gonna lie, it feels like dated. It looks dated. It doesn't look.
I think some of my favorite parts, going back to it, are like when someone gets punched or someone falls over, it goes boing or something
Oh
like that.
no, you watched
this
the
is-
wrong
Love it.
one.
No!
What?
Wasn't that the wrong one? Oh, you mean the sound effects?
No, the
Well,
sound
just,
effects.
Gotcha.
just a zaniness and the cheese behind
Sure,
it.
Yeah.
So,
I
thought
mean,
you
it's,
watched.
it's,
I thought.
No,
it's
like,
quintessential 90s for sure.
yes.
I thought you
Yes.
watched the.
No, like the sound effects
Remember
at
the
the
remake
end.
one that they did, and they.
Oh, the
That's what I thought she was
2010
No,
redo.
no,
Yes, I know
no.
exactly what he's saying.
Yeah.
To be fair, that was like the Adam West Batman version of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, where they had pow, zinger, and comic effects.
Yeah, when you said that stuff.
No,
that's
but
what I
like
thought
the
that.
sound effects, like when someone fell over,
Sure.
or like when that bully guy like
Bulk.
Bulk, yeah, that's right. When Bulk like would get knocked out, or like when the shakes got like tossed on top of them, like they had like that little sound effect.
Yeah, it's zany.
So
It's a little-
nostalgic.
I will say this about Day of the Dumpster and Mighty Morphin in general, it's so 90s. Every character is exactly what you expect.
the
And they
epitome
don't
of
look
it.
like they're in high school.
Yeah, true story.
Well, I
they-
mean, that's funny because actually, besides a couple of them, like Jason, the Red Ranger, he was actually the youngest member.
he was
of
only like
that.
17 at the time.
He was 17 at the time, yeah. And it's crazy that he was like the leader of the team, but he was the youngest on set.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to me. But we get to see what happens when the astronauts make it to the moon. And then Rita Repulsa, and this is so cheesy, and I love it. I love every second of this. How she like steps out and steps into like a puddle, and you get the sense of what that character is all within that short beat of time. And you get to see her henchmen, and I
Yeah.
think that's kind of fun. You're introduced to the backstory of what the villains are.
Sure.
And they're not deep. I mean, obviously, and we'll get there when we get further in other episodes. But I think it's a good setup to know the tone of the show. And I think with
Agreed.
Rita being kind of like it sets the tone very well of having like this villain that's kind of like with her goofy squad of
Yeah.
guys. And it's not a super dark show, so it sets everything. It sets a tone for the show.
Yeah.
I do feel like we hit the ground running because we are introduced to the characters. We are quickly familiar, or not familiar, but at least quickly introduced to their differences. Like
Yeah.
you really can tell Jason is a certain type. You can tell that Zach is a certain way. You know who the nerdy-ish guy is. You see the graceful one, you see the popular one. Like you were talking about, the villains are their own characteristics. Bumbling versus very loud and wicked,
very much like
Wicked Witch of the West. And I'm like, oh, Rita, and all that other stuff. So yeah.
Right off the bat, Kelly, what did you think of each character when we get to the juice bar? When we get introduced to Jason and Billy and Trini and Zach and Kimberly.
Now, I'm curious because I don't know a lot of like the history behind the Power Rangers.
Let's talk about it.
Now, did they actually go out and find like gymnasts, top gymnasts, or?
Yes. So
Okay.
for the casting of the show,
Because their moves they're impressive.
yeah,
Their skills
so
are impressive.
more so.
I'm so glad you brought that up, by
More
the
so
way.
in the first, I would say the first 4 seasons of Power Rangers, it was very prominent that they were casting for
Abilities.
ability
As well as
acting.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously in the newer renditions, nothing against the actors that are on now, but the newer renditions, they have to go through a training process.
Yeah.
But they're trying to find actors that have certain skills, but it's more so about the look now,
Yeah.
rather than then it was based on more of the skill.
But also to follow up on that, the reason why they focus less attention on the physical prowess of some of these actors are, for instance, we have unmorphed fights. So a lot of these actors are able to stretch their limbs, kind of show off a little bit. But after a while, they started doing away with whole human on human contact or human against, you know what I mean? They started narrowing
They
it
morph
down.
right away now, right?
So now you just have to look good, be able to, carry a scene and, look suited or look good in a suit, you know what I mean? So there's a
But
reason.
I thought it was impressive. Like in the beginning, they kind of had like that dojo scene a little bit,
Oh, yeah, that's
where
great.
he's like training. What was his name? Bulk.
Bulk, yeah.
Bulk.
Where he's like training Bulk, but he's doing like a lot of moves that are just impressive.
Yeah,
like
they're
not
dope.
everyone can do that.
Right. I mean, and it is impressive. You're right.
Yeah.
It's exactly. Because it's crazy when you watch stunt doubles and stuff because you can't necessarily see faces, but
They
in this
try to hide that.
it was very clear.
You can tell they have skill.
Yeah,
Yes.
that Austin
You can tell they have
St. John
skill.
Yes.
was there. Now, your impression. Give me a rundown of what your impression of the characters.
Okay. Well, I was a little bummed to go back and kind of find that Kimberly was a little bit more ditzy than I remember her being.
Okay.
She's a Valley girl.
Yeah, and I don't.
But you're gonna
for
go back
some
and-
reason,
here's the
I don't
thing.
remember her being that ditzy.
You're gonna see an evolution of that character. Though.
Yes.
And that's what I'm excited
Well,
to
I
see.
did see a little bit of a goofy side peeking out at the very end when she was like joking about the helmet messing up her hair, but she also still had like that ditzy side a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm a little bummed about that. I don't remember the Yellow Ranger's name, but Trini, she's very quiet. I feel like I didn't get a read on her at all
Okay.
in the first episode.
Sure,
Okay.
she was more of a silent beauty, I guess.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Billy.
Billy, I think Billy was my favorite
Ah,
because of skill.
that's
because
awesome.
of skill, I think I like his skill the best. Let's see, we had the Blue Ranger.
Oh, no,
that's
actually, you
Billy.
meant Zach.
No, no, no.
Zach. You have the Black Ranger, Zach.
Black Ranger's the Zach.
So do you feel like Zach had the best ability? Is that what you meant?
No. I liked Billy's skills.
Oh, you did like Billy's skills.
Zach's skills, he kind of seemed the most reluctant. So I feel like he's going to be the one who's like, oh, like, are we ready for this? Because they're jumping. This is like them being like, oh, we have these powers. But in the
Oh,
very
so
end-
as far as him kind of like, oh,
in the
this
very
ain't for
end,
us.
Yeah, in the very
Okay.
end, he says like, oh,
We got pretty lucky this time.
yes.
like, man, I don't know
Like,
about all
do you
this.
really? And the guy's like, yeah, we believe in you. You guys were specially chosen for this. You
Sure.
guys have been born. Basically.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So for him, I feel like he's going to kind of bring up the conflict that they experience, like the hardships, everything. So I
Sure.
know that he's going to be the one that's going to do that. And then
Jason.
Who else am I missing? Jason. I don't know about Jason. I mean, personally, what I remember from him, he was my brother's favorite, and
He was my favorite. Just
I
for the
was
record.
always in
At the time,
competition
he was my favorite,
with
too.
my brother, so I didn't like anything he liked. So I feel like that kind of stuck. But I think with this refresher, I'll be able to get my own view on it.
Okay.
I'll be able to come back to
Now,
it. create
Bulk
my
and
own
Skull. What'd you think about those guys?
view. Oh, they're so slapstick.
I love
Yes.
that.
so slapstick.
That Laurel and
I
Hardy.
forgot about that.
You know what?
Watching it, I was like,
To credit to the actors Paul and Jason Narvey, that there's a lot of physical comedy that I didn't actually pick up on when I was a kid.
Yes.
And how physical that
Same.
in terms we were talking about physicality of the Power Rangers themselves. But I think what's downplayed a lot is the actual physicality that Jason and Paul had.
Yeah.
Because they do almost as much, except in a different way, that the Rangers do.
Yeah.
And it's a hard trait to do. It's something that's very difficult to do. And they nailed it.
They do nail it. And even though we just talked about the first episode, what's really great about those two specifically is as time goes on, their timing gets better and better. Like they're legitimately funny. They do their job to be the punchline or give the punchline or just give you that chuckle, and it's all done at their physical expense, their pride, and you know what I mean. They're usually getting something like stuff dumped on them, or tripping and falling and being beat up. You know what I mean? Even though they're the bullies, and that's a lot of trust as far as the actors and being a bully, and I feel like they carried this thing pretty well.
And I'm excited for you to see their evolution as well.
I'm
Yes.
excited, but
Yes.
although that they are labeled as bullies, they didn't seem that bad. I mean,
in comparison to what we hear nowadays with kids,
nowadays.
You think so? I mean, that was like the definition of bullies back in the day. Like the whole, what do you want, dweeb? Oh man, go over here, da 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 da. Oh, wait, hey, you know what? You should give me a kiss. Like they were that type of bully.
But he was also kind of interacting with him or with all of the Power Rangers.
Sure.
And I just felt like it was more playful rather than bullying.
Sure.
So they kind of had like a little soft spot in my heart.
It's never going to be Degrassi.
Yeah.
Because I for sure thought you were gonna say you hated Bulk and Skull.
No.
To be fair, I kind of see why I would have thought that too about you.
I think maybe it's something I feel based on like this fresh eye I'm putting on the show today. I think back then I did not like them. I did not like them back then. But today, looking on them, I'm like, they're not that bad. They kind of just want to be part of the group. So.
Oh, you look at it as like
look at
outsiders.
that.
That's cool.
We got the whole tragic characters type of thing going on.
It's interesting. That's an interesting way to really look at them. I didn't see it from that perspective.
So let's take us through the story real quick. So we have the astronauts unleashing the evil after 10,000 years.
Yes.
We get the introduction to Angel Grove and the youth center, which is the hot spot. We actually talked about this.
I remember the youth center.
We talked about this. It was like the place where everything. It was like everything was held at the youth
We don't
center.
really have those anymore. I
Well,
feel like.
yeah, we do. It's the comic bug for us. It's like, hey, let's meet at the
Yeah, we're
comic
also
store.
not in school, guys.
I will say this, like places like the youth center and like Saved by the Bell gave me like, what was it, the
Yeah.
Max and like
Yeah.
Saved by the
Max,
Bell.
yeah.
That's the stuff I was looking forward to. I wanted a place where I could like get a gym in, or see gyms where they see like karate lessons, where there were milkshakes.
They had like a dojo
everything was
inside
there.
this little diner.
Everything was
Isn't
there.
that crazy,
That's
though?
what I wanted when I went to high school. I didn't
when
get
you
it.
have all this fitness stuff and workout machines and all this stuff, but it's like, hey, here's a fudge sundae.
I know.
Like, oh,
Kimberly's like
great.
doing like gymnastics, and then afterwards they're all getting together and eating like fries.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're a gymnast, you have a very strict diet, right?
Yeah, you gotta be clean.
They don't seem that strict.
But then when you're in high school too, like 'cause I played football in high school and I ate whatever I wanted. You know what I mean?
I think football's a little different than
Gymnastics.
I can't wait till we get to the
Gymnastics.
football episode. You're right. You're right. I thought it's so funny though because you're right, DJ. Like as a kid, when you're a kid, you look forward to high school to have a hangout spot.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that now as adults, we have a hangout spot. It's like the comic bug, right?
That is our hangout
If we were
spot.
Power Rangers, that would be the place where we would congregate all the time. Is the comic store.
But I actually set my expectations based on those type of shows. I don't know why. I mean, obviously it's just
Why
TV.
don't we have a dojo and a diner in this comic book store?
Like, why don't I have like 5 multi-color coordinated friends that I can do everything with, and just have this whole world?
Well, that's one thing actually that, funny enough, looking back, I like it in Power Rangers, but it's overdone, and you're gonna notice that and I like in further seasons where they kind of stray away from it a little bit, but like the Red Ranger has to wear all red, and the Yellow Ranger has to wear all yellow, and I get it. I completely understand why they did it at the time, but it's just like, man, who wore green jeans? You know what I mean? Like,
Is that, is that
red
as
jeans.
popular?
Red jeans,
Red
yeah.
jeans.
Is that as popular in the future seasons?
Yes.
They still do it. They
They
continue that
completely.
tradition.
To be, okay.
They do it, but
I
they do
kind of
it.
like that. I kind of like hearing that.
I was gonna say really
They
quick.
do it, but it's a lot more subtle.
It's not like, bright green jeans.
Depending on the
season.
Yeah.
Now I will say this, like a lot of times you and I talk about the tropes of Power Rangers. There's certain things that we expect from Power Rangers. They even make jokes about, in certain seasons they actually make jokes as far as like, oh, I'm this Ranger now. I need to buy more of this wardrobe, that type of stuff. So it's like
Oh yeah, they do.
you know what I mean? It's kind of the
itself,
kind of stuff that we expect, and it's kind of part of the formula. You know what I mean? So I like it, but yes,
I mean, I like it, but I like it more subtle. Like
sure.
No, like
There's
not
one
like
color
so
from
in your
head to
face,
toe.
yeah. Like but I understand why they did it, because it was explained to me by one of the Ranger actors, is because they want kids to identify them as cartoon characters.
Which makes sense.
And cartoon
Okay.
characters, they don't ever change their wardrobe.
Yes.
So that was something, especially in Megaforce.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I will say this. Back in Mighty Morphin's days, at least it was just a color association type of thing. Eventually, what ended up happening is they started getting specific outfits and specific civilian outfits and specific.
Every day.
And I don't know why as adult fans we make such a big deal, but for instance, like Megaforce had one of the biggest critiques as far as they're wearing the same thing every single time. And it's like, that's what they've been doing for a while now. Like, they actually do wear the same stuff, whether it's uniform based or if it's just their civilian outfits. They simplified it even further to make sure that you knew what their civilian outfits look like.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I think in a way that's kind of smart though. If they train
it's great.
an audience, the reason why I think it's smart is because if somebody was cosplaying like, I don't know, Jason, I mean, it's very hard to say like, oh, this is Jason. Like, he has a
Exactly.
very specific look. But if you're cosplaying like, what's her, Ciara, Gia's character,
Or Troy.
Sure. They wore a very specific thing, so you were like, oh, that's Troy. But in other seasons where it's like, oh, I'm Max from Wild Force. I'm like, wait, what? Like, you know, because they wore different things. But back to this, that was a little bit of a tangent.
That's by the way, get used to that. That's kind of what we do. We're like,
Back
talk
to
about this, talk about that.
I mean, listen,
I like learning more about the show.
that's the cool thing about this show, though. There's so much to learn about it.
There's a lot behind the camera,
Yes.
like that you don't see.
And we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, so those are your initial opinions on what
Yes.
happens.
Yes. I mean, it's a short episode, so
It is. All of them are
it
short.
went by like pretty quickly.
So then we have Earth gets attacked. Pretty much the breaking news.
Breaking news. The huge earthquake felt all over the place.
Yeah, that was, and then we see them get teleported to the command center. What'd you think of that command center, and what'd you think of Zordon Alpha?
Okay, so seeing Alpha again, there was that recent news of the new Alpha,
Bill Hader?
the new Alpha
From the movie.
in the movie.
Yeah.
Is it Bill Hader?
Yeah,
It's
Oh,
Bill
I didn't know
Hader.
that.
It is Bill Hader.
And I was a little sad because I was like, oh no, that's like the iconic look, and I don't know why they've changed it so much.
Well, I like it.
Actually, I like it.
You like the
I
new
actually like
one?
it too.
I do.
It's like
He doesn't look like the sweet, cuddly Alpha.
He looks aesthetically more alien.
Yes.
But this is the way I
Yes.
feel about
But
it.
it makes sense to me.
The
Like
Alpha.
if I got transported into that command center and I saw the new Alpha,
You'd be afraid.
I'd be flipping my shit.
But that's the point. I mean, our old school Alpha. Our old school Alpha 5 looked like it could have been made on Earth. It looked like
Yeah,
if somebody
that's
could
true.
cosplay, it looks like something that we can
That's
come
very
up
true.
with.
But I would have been freaking out. I would have been like, oh.
The teleportation wouldn't freak you out yourself. Like, okay, we just got
I
zoomed
would
somewhere.
be
I'm already
like-
freaked out.
I would be like the guy in Galaxy Quest.
Yes.
Oh, I love that movie.
You know,
That's a
where he
great
gets
movie.
transported and he's like, these guys. No, the guy who played Monk.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, cool, great. That was
Oh,
blast.
me and you thought it was like Sam Rockwell.
Yeah,
Where we
Sam
just-
Rockwell.
You just started
Yeah.
screaming.
Jason,
Monk really was like,
Yeah, I feel like,
hey, what's wrong with them? Okay, cool, let's go.
oh, that was a trip.
Like, wow, that was a hell of a thing. He said, it's exactly, I was like, that was a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
So smiley, that was so
Yeah,
great.
that'd be me.
If,
Shout out to Galaxy Quest, by the way.
So you going
Great
into that
movie.
command center now, you feel like Alpha is the warm, cuddly robot.
Yeah. Welcoming, friendly, adorable.
And-
I would want one. I
Sure.
would not want one of the
I
new
would
ones.
want one.
And what did you think about Zordon?
I've never been attached to Zordon. Like, it was an iconic
We'll see
figure.
after the first season is I think 61 episodes. So let's see in
Yes,
61 episodes.
I agree. I do know
jeez.
that I remember him being such an iconic figure. I would have, when I was younger and I'd watch the show, I would have dreams of talking to Zordon. Like, it stuck, but
I just recently had the strangest dream, and I'll tell you guys about it.
I would have
Sorry.
I felt no connection towards, like, neither liked nor disliked that
Zordon.
character.
It's all about Alpha.
I like
Yes.
It's all about Alpha.
It's all about Alpha.
Yes.
You too?
I love Alpha.
Okay.
I think he was just like the nice little. You could tell like he was influenced by a couple of things, like the Danger Row Robinson Lost in Space robot, the batteries not included dome. You know what I mean? Like you could tell like he was like that, the culmination of robots throughout like pop culture.
Yeah, it's an amalgam of robots.
Exactly.
I think what was cool about this scene though is that Zordon comes off a little cold to me.
Does
Yeah.
he?
To me.
I can see that.
To me, that was his most lively. Like, greetings,
Really?
human. Hey, how you doing? He
Well-
really tried to come off like sales pitch.
That was his most lively.
Kinda.
That's
there's
probably why I didn't feel a connection.
I mean, there's other episodes where he's like,
Well, I think
you know,
that
zany,
the
but-
tone is that Zordon is supposed to be. It's supposed to set up that you're supposed to respect this character.
Sure.
So that's why he speaks in the manner he does, and that's why he kind of commands respect. And I think in that, to me, is if I was a Power Ranger, I'd have felt a little like he's coming off a little cold. Whereas Alpha is the one that's kind of like the greeter, like he's the connection there.
Yes.
I will say this though, if you're a fan of Power Rangers now and you've never seen Mighty Morphin, you might actually go back and just watch like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? Especially because a lot of the mentors now are humans. They're just, with the exception of like the huge tiki that we had in like Megaforce, like most of our mentors have been humans or human-like. Oh, we did have a humanoid dog and anthropomorphic
A hamster.
dog. We did have a hamster. Okay, so we have gone off course a couple of times.
So on that point, you think that kids growing up today watching the newer seasons would go back and they wouldn't connect to the first season?
I think it'd be like a culture shock as far as like, wow, this is what you guys were into. At least with a hamster. A hamster's cute. At least with the huge, big humanoid dog, you're like, okay, man, that's a humanoid dog. This is a giant floaty head.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I agree. The trope of that, though, is so iconic.
No, it is. Zordon is the mentor. He is. He's like the man. I mean, hell, Zords and Zordon, I mean, his legacy lives on.
And it's been rehashed in other shows and movies.
Yes.
Sure, reference for sure.
Yeah.
And he's trapped in an he's in between dimensions. That's why he's in that tube. But that's the thing. But yeah.
So the kids are at the command center.
And when they all get their assigned colors and
That they just happen to be wearing.
and dinosaurs. Tell me a little fun story about a dinosaur.
All right, I was talking to Joe about this earlier, and
What did I miss?
the saber-toothed tiger or whatever it is not a dinosaur.
It's not.
It's really not.
I
It
mean,
really
they're like it's part of the prehistoric era, but
Well,
I
they-
would be bummed if they're like, oh, you're gonna get the like persona essence of these dinosaurs, and they give me the saber-toothed tiger and be like,
This ain't.
You wouldn't want the
doesn't
saber-toothed tiger?
count.
I would love the saber-toothed tiger, but I would feel so left out when all my friends have dinosaurs and I don't, okay?
You're like, did you not have a Stegosaurus lying around, or that's what you would have been disappointed? Seriously.
Right. So let me ask you
Left
guys.
out.
To be fair, a
There are
mastodon.
lots of dinosaurs.
A mastodon isn't a dinosaur either.
A mastodon's not a dinosaur either. That's true.
That's
So let's talk about this real quick, because as we go through this, obviously you guys are going to learn more about Kelly. Some of you already know about me and DJ, but let's learn about each other a little bit. DJ, what dinosaur of the 5 would you have wanted, and which one do you think you would have gotten?
I mean, at the time, I don't think I ever questioned the dinosaur thing as a kid. As a kid, it was just like, oh my God, look at the powers and the prehistoric animals or whatever. At the time, it was all about the Black Ranger because I thought the Black Ranger was dope. Now, DJ answering now would have been all about the T-Rex.
Okay, so originally, like younger DJ would have been Mastodon. That was the one you would have.
Yeah, I thought it was dope. Not to mention, I really liked the design in the helmet, like his tusks coming in his visor. Like to me, okay, Mighty Morphin is the nostalgia, but I felt like everything worked for that season in terms of like the Zords, the design, the suits. I mean, it all made sense to me.
Yeah.
As much as that could make sense, I guess.
So what was your favorite dinosaur growing up? Just out of curiosity.
Interestingly enough, probably a long neck, and that's probably because of.
Oh, me too. That's funny.
Oh, that was because of
Land Before
Land Before Time
Before Time,
was my jam. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that was like the big introduction, and then all
A
of a sudden,
Brachiosaurus. When I was a kid, it was called a Brontosaurus.
Brontosaurus and
which is named-
Brachiosaurus. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite dinosaur growing up too.
But Littlefoot was like he was the man. Okay,
love-
like
But
Littlefoot
I
was-
wouldn't want to be the long neck dinosaur as the Power Rangers.
But there is.
We'll get there.
There is one?
We'll get there. But so which
Sorry, long neck Power Ranger.
which of the 5?
Don't you talk about
Which of the 5
Titanus?
would you have chosen? And which of the 5 do you think Zordon would have assigned you? So you think Zordon would have assigned you the Mastodon?
Oh, well, I mean, that wasn't your question. You just said the first one that I liked.
Right, but do you
which-
think he would have assigned you? Which one do you think you would have gotten assigned by Zordon?
I'll answer this question by actually putting it on you. One thing you need to know about Joe, he's really good about, hey, you know what? If any of us were any of these certain amount of characters, you know what you would be? You would be this. You would be this. He even gave me a superpower one time. Like, DJ, you know what your superpower would be? Condiments. I'm like, what the? What the?
I made
hell?
up really bad superpowers for everybody one day.
But the reason why I bring up that fact about you being good about calling people out, well, sometimes I disagree, but why don't you tell me? What do you think? Which power do you think Zordon would have given?
You know, I don't think that should be my job. I think it should be our producer, JD, that assigns it.
Oh, okay. Let's go ahead and
He
do
would
that
be
real
our
quick.
Zordon, essentially.
Actually, JD in a lot of ways is our Zordon, our producer JD behind the camera.
So
JD,
JD,
who would I
shout it
be?
out. Who do you think DJ would be? Which dinosaur would you have assigned him?
Which power?
Don't base it on color. Base it on just the animal.
Wow.
No. I mean,
Wow.
don't base it on like Red Ranger. Just base it on the actual like dinosaur.
Are we okay? Really?
I would give you the T-Rex.
Really?
Good. So you're red.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, JD.
What would you give Kelly?
actually.
Okay, so you.
That's a compliment.
I like the saber-toothed tiger.
She just would have complained that it's not a dinosaur.
Yes.
What dinosaur would I have gotten?
Wait, are you guys on the same team?
Now we're getting technical. Right, top of the head.
I was just giving you the Tyrannosaurus Rex too. That's the thing.
Oh, well, that's.
Why are you disappointed?
I don't like the T-Rex, to be honest with you.
Oh, well, okay.
I was never a T-Rex guy, mainly because T-Rexes were always perceived to be like the villain dinosaur.
Yeah.
So that's why I was never like a T-Rex guy, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes enough sense, but in association with Power Rangers, not even thinking about it, like T-Rex is still like the strong one. Like in every season of Power Rangers that has dinosaur themes, T-Rex is like the leader. So
sure. I accept the T-Rex, but it wouldn't have been my favorite. I would have been like, can I just trade with the pterodactyl? Can I trade you with
you would take the pterodactyl.
I would totally. I love actually the pterodactyl is my favorite Zord.
Really?
Yeah, because it's the only one that can fly.
True story.
And I think that it would have been cool because just flying it around and like being like a pilot for it. I think that personally, I don't care if I would have got pink. I think the pterodactyl is a cool Zord.
Actually, speaking of which, that's one thing I do love about the original Zords of the first season. And this comes back to Zoodanger and the footage from Zoodanger, but the way they arise from their their 5 corners of the earth. Like the pterodactyl exploding from the volcano, the T-Rex ripping through the earth, you know what I mean? The Triceratops going through the desert, saber-toothed tiger going through the jungle, who am I missing? The Mastodon coming from the Arctic. Like that was dope to me, and you never really questioned how they got there so fast. That's fine. But just seeing where they came from, you really got distinguishing characteristics, just like the characters, just like the Zords, just like everything in the show, and the color coordination, of course. You got a clear picture right away.
Yep. Yeah, but that's pretty much our introduction. They go outside. They get their morphers.
They do get their morphers, yes.
Which is obviously something that's gonna be
I remember there being more
Power Rangers.
Background story.
Information about their morphers. They were kind of
About how to use them, you mean?
They were just like handed to them and they used it. Like I remember there being like a moment
She's absolutely right.
where like they got like it was like a thing. No.
Nope, there wasn't. But the reason why I say you're absolutely right is because back in the day, we never questioned it. We just went along with it.
I think the prominence of what you're looking for happens in later season where it becomes a tradition to pass it down. Kinda. You'll see once we get to the Green Ranger story arc how it all plays out. But
for our first episode and the way they were introduced to the
Yeah,
powers,
it
is as quick as, hey, by the way, you're here now.
Here's your
Here's
power
evil.
morphers.
Here's abilities. Go Power Rangers. We don't believe you. It's okay. You're fine. It was very within 60 seconds, it's pretty much wrapped up and they're out.
yeah.
Like it is very
questioning it, of course, but they walk out and they're like, dude, this is so weird. Like and I would have felt the same way. I'm like, okay, I got these superpowers, sure.
On a side note, I do think that Jason played it a little bit too cool. Austin St. John or whatever you want to blame it on. Again, you just got teleported. Like legit went from, I'm assuming, hundreds of miles away to this command center. Everyone gets up and there's a couple of lines like, who are you? Like, what are you? And Jason's like, who are you? Like he was like too cool to see like a big floaty head. You know what I mean? Like he was just a little bit too smooth as the leader, but that's okay because it's Power Rangers. It's part of the cheese. But if I saw a big floaty head, I would kind of freak out.
I would freak out too.
I would kind of freak out.
Actually, I would think it would be the coolest thing. I'd take a picture of it.
Yeah, but if I knew it wasn't graphics, it was legitimately like a big floaty head, I'd be like,
that would have been so cool.
freaking show.
I love that. I like really strange things.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So they leave the command center.
They leave the command center. We get the putty attack.
Our very first putty attack.
The putty patrol.
The first of many.
What did you think of the putty patrol?
That was my putty.
Okay, so I remember them being scary when I was younger. So watching them now, I was like, this is what I was scared of?
Oh, that's awesome though. That's great. That's great.
Obviously they want people of all ages to be able to enjoy it, so they're not going to do something that's mega scary. There's not going to be no like. I get scared of things like the tall man.
The Slender Man.
Oh,
The Slender Man.
yeah.
Thank you.
From the
That
game.
would have freaked me out. But they're not going to put that in an all ages show. So when I was younger, I remember being scarier. Now I was like, okay, but it was effective. Like they had a group. It wasn't like one person. It was like a team, and they're all surrounding them, and they're grabbing them, and they're throwing them. Like off to the side, and they're one little pile. They're all like bunched up perfectly, but.
And you kind of get the impression right away. It's like they're not menacing. They're just kind of inconvenient.
Yeah.
You know what? Here's something I did like about it though, is in that fight scene is that Billy doesn't really know how to fight. I like the fact that all of them aren't there. They're there for a specific skill. Obviously, you knew Jason is a karate guy, and Zach, I like that he uses his hip-hop like dance moves to fight. I like that Kimberly uses her gymnastic skills, and you know Trini's an accomplished.
Trini was a brawler.
Yeah,
Trini was a graceful brawler though.
And I love the fact that Billy, they let you know right away that Billy isn't necessarily the strongest fighter of the team.
Yeah.
And the others feel like they almost need to protect him, but he brings something else to the table because he's so smart.
Yeah.
I love that about
He's
the
like
character.
a Ravenclaw, and he's wearing blue.
Oh,
Are you
Kelly,
Ravenclaw?
I am Ravenclaw.
What are you?
you keep asking. I'm a Gryffindor, and you're Slytherin.
I am Slytherin.
So, Red Ranger, Green Ranger. That's like, it's as simple as that. But I will say this, one thing I do miss about old school Power Rangers, and they had to take measures to kind of do PSAs because the content was different. The content was violence. The content was basically fighting and monsters. And I mean, from Super Sentai, they are destroying these monsters. It is a violent show on and off paper if you weren't really prepared for it, or unless you're like cool, like, oh my God, that's really cool, Mom. But like, for instance, Billy's highlight, like their PSAs, like, oh, don't judge a book by its cover, because in blah, 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 English, in actuality, Billy is a dope gymnast, and they would actually show that, like, oh, there's fantasy, there's reality, but you can see as time goes on that Billy David Yost is super skilled, super athletic, super talented, and is a dope gymnast.
And I love the fact I think Billy has the best evolution of any character
I agree.
of any Power Ranger season ever.
I agree.
And you almost see him grow up and become the person, the real leader of the team.
He becomes the mentor.
He does become the mentor.
He becomes the mentor.
That's spoiler alert, Kelly, but we'll get there in a couple years.
Sad is, he's right.
But so we finally get the fight, and we get our first morph sequence.
Yes.
Then they become the Power Rangers.
So badass.
They call upon their Zords and they fight Goldar.
You know, I
Is
thought.
it Goldar?
They do fight Goldar, but they didn't
Yeah.
even finish the putties. That's the funny part.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah, they
hey,
did.
these
It
power morphers give us power. Let's use them. Morph, and then they go away. I'm
After
like,
we're
wait.
talking about that, I just realized, I was like, wow, they didn't really
do
finish
anything.
that
Like,
job.
the putties, we just assume like Alpha took care of them. It's fine. Alpha 5 is the
I do like the fact that
first line of defense.
that there is an Alpha 5 centric episode, like when we get to later, like
There's a
everybody,
couple.
it gets
There's a couple.
highlight episodes.
I think I remember that one.
It's a good one.
Matter of fact, not to get too far ahead, but I love the fact that like one day Alpha just says, screw it, I'm going outside because it's Halloween, no one's gonna question it.
Yeah.
And he kind of walks in like, hey guys, I'm like, Alpha, what are you doing? What? No one's gonna, you know what I mean? He kind of responds like, it's Halloween, nobody cares.
It's
As opposed to the new Alpha, everybody would care.
Yeah.
The new Lionsgate Alpha, everyone would be like, holy shit.
That'd be creepy. That'd be creepy.
So,
But I was pleasantly surprised seeing like the fight scenes. I thought coming back to it, I was gonna be like, all right, they're gonna be like simpler fight scenes, but I still enjoyed them. I still
Sure.
thought that they were badass. I loved them. It's true that the fight scenes were taken from the original Japanese TV show, right?
the Sentai.
But I thought they were great.
how
Going
did
back to
it
the
how did it
Marvel
blend
movie.
for you in terms of like the
I was
American?
just
You
about to get
can
that.
tell the difference, but if I don't know, because I knew that they were filmed. There were different scenes. Like even Rita Repulsa, she's like
Her
different.
lips don't match,
Yeah.
though.
But I think that if no one had told, or if I just didn't know, if I was coming into this with completely fresh eyes, no knowledge, I don't think I would have noticed that much of a difference.
Okay.
I will say this, back when I was a kid, and Joe, let me know how you felt. Did you notice it as a kid? Did you notice it was different?
Yes.
Okay.
I did.
Now, did you understand why at the time? Because we're about the same age.
I think, man, that's a tough question. Yes, I did know at the time, mainly because, and there's one specific story, is when I was a kid, I bought the Zords. And you remember, I'm sure you kind of would know this too, is that the Power Ranger toys were really hot when we were kids.
Oh, dude, they were
Yeah.
Super hot. They
Flew
were
off the
like-
shelf, yeah.
Flew off the shelf. When I was a kid, I bought, this is funny, I actually got into I got into Power Rangers a little bit later than everybody, like a few episodes later.
That's not that much.
Yeah, so I bought, my first ever Power Ranger purchase was the Red Ranger, the 8-inch Red Ranger, and the Dragon Zord that came with the Green Ranger.
Oh, so
But
good.
here's the thing about
So
that,
good.
is that at the time, the Green Ranger hadn't even been introduced yet
Right.
on the show.
Which got me excited, by the way.
Yeah, so I was
Please
like, wait,
continue.
there's another one,
And he has a shield?
He had a shield, and I was like, I'm gonna buy that. So my dad got me both of those, and then there was this place in Santa Monica called Puzzle Zoo, and at
They still have those.
at Puzzle Zoo, they had, because they were so hard to find, they had other Zords of the Power Rangers, and on the side of it, it was all in Japanese though. And on the side of it, it was the Die Rangers, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's gonna be more Power Rangers!" So I bought that Zord too.
Interesting.
And showed my friends. I was like, "Look,
I
there's
have no
more
idea what
Power
you're talking
Rangers
about
are
right
coming." You don't know what I'm talking about?
No, actually, I don't.
There's a-
With the Die Rangers?
Yeah, there were the Zords.
Yeah.
I bought the Zords. Yeah, so I bought they came together. The one that I didn't get was the Red Dragon Thunder Zord, but I got the.
Oh, so you're talking about like, this is when you first got into it? Was
Yeah.
season 2? You said like a few
No.
episodes.
Well,
Oh.
no. The Die Ranger stuff was at Puzzle Zoo because that was already airing out there.
Got it.
So it was like an
So
import
the
Zord.
actual
Sure.
Japanese toys were imported here.
And I didn't know.
Got it.
I thought they were gonna be like, obviously they were coming, but like
Yeah.
a year later or whatever.
Yeah,
but I was like, guys, like I showed all my friends, like guys, there's more Power Rangers. So I assumed that the Green Ranger was gonna be like, I don't know if it was gonna be good or bad. I didn't know what was happening. So I bought the toy, and then I saw these other Power Rangers. I was like, oh, there's gonna be more. Maybe they're the bad guy Power Rangers. And I just came up with this whole fan
That would've
fiction in
been
my
dope.
head
That actually would've
of
been
what,
really dope.
what happened. But anyways,
As far as
yes.
the
So
only
to answer your
difference.
question, that was a long story. But to answer your question, yes, I did know that there was a Japanese version.
Okay.
Based on that.
Because my, as a kid, without questioning too much, I thought it was something like these are the stunt suits and this is the hero suits or something like that. Or I didn't know how to regard it at the time. I thought like, okay, this is the pretty suits and this is like the actual fight suits, especially when you get into like Tommy and the Green Ranger. The biggest tell was like the flimsy shield. In the American version, it was the crappy fabric shield. In the Japanese version, it was a dope hard case more foam suit.
Yeah.
And that kind of took me out all the time, but I always assumed like, okay, this is the pretty suit, this is the actual stunt suit. So I didn't understand there was necessarily a different show they were taking it from, but I did know there was a different type of footage.
Sure.
But I didn't equate it to like, oh, it's Japanese.
Yeah. Well, what did you think, Kelly, of these Zords when you saw them?
The Zords are the creatures, right?
Yes.
The big robots, the Transformers.
Yes. Looking back on it now, like you could totally see what it is, but
Well, what do you mean by that?
that they're little, they're like
Little
Yeah.
miniatures.
they're like probably that big.
Like, what are they to you?
But I still think that it was clever. Like at the time when I was younger watching the show, didn't even faze me. I watched it, I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like that must be real. But now watching it,
I see what you're saying.
yes. But now watching it,
I actually think they age well though.
I think
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
agree.
I'm impressed with their
I do agree.
creativity, with like the making something like that real. Like back when this was made in the 90s, and was it in the 80s for Japan?
No, actually. Well, ours was 93. It was like a couple of years before. So
Okay,
it was,
so
like-
still-
it was still 90s. It
That's
was still
still
90s.
90s.
It was
Okay,
still 90s.
so there was not any really CGI or anything that they were used to, and
But-
also the Japanese shows use all the kaiju stuff, and so I think it's impressive.
You know what?
Creative, realistic, not cheesy.
You bring up a great point though, and I think that what Power Rangers gets overlooked a lot for is that they use a lot of really clever camera
Yes.
tricks.
And
yes.
practical effects.
Practical
I
effects,
appreciate
yeah.
it.
I think that's really cool, especially back in those days
Oh, dude.
because even now sometimes it baffles me because I see it, but then I know it's a guy in the Zord suit fighting around. But I was like,
It
wow.
translates really well.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like that's crazy because I almost sometimes lose sense that like, oh, that's a person in that suit.
The suspense of disbelief.
Yeah, I almost always think, I don't know why, I think of like, oh, it goes over my head sometimes,
Yes.
but then I have to bring it back and be like, wow, that's really impressive how they do that.
But it's a credit to Tokusatsu
Oh, yeah.
production and their approach. I mean, we're talking about Godzilla, we're talking about Ultraman, we're talking about a huge, rich history
Yeah.
of suited actors and miniatures and practical effects. And I think the reason why we think it ages well is because it did help complement that we think these robots are coming together and will make this practical robots, as opposed to, and that's one thing I feel like Power Rangers hasn't really captured in a long time, is because we're living in a CGI world and everything looks so rubbery and cartoony. You know, it's more convenient, it is smoother, but it's not as suspense of disbelief
Yes.
as we had.
I agree.
So it's like Star Wars versus the prequels.
Yes.
So.
I agree. I think the Zords aged really well. I think that the miniatures that they must have built for sets must have been so cool though.
I bet.
Yeah.
Like just to look at this little city and you're like a giant. Oh, man, how
Oh,
cool
dude, the
that would be.
cities, yeah, just
Yeah,
the miniatures, period. Sure.
Because they're pretty detailed for like
Yeah.
a miniature city.
They're great.
I mean, it's awesome.
They're really great. So they got to fight Goldar in their first, and I again, loving the cheese of Power Rangers.
Yeah.
You know, you have like the one-liners.
But you know
like,
what's cool? Goldar looks pretty menacing. Like that was
Goldar's
the one
sick.
character that I was like, wow, this is like that he's the warrior one.
Sure.
And I remember being scared of Goldar when I was younger. Actually, Goldar, the ones that scared me the most because the figures came out first. Goldar and King Sphinx were the knight that
Nasty
Jack
Knight.
Nasty
Nasty
Knight.
Knight.
Those were the three. I was like, oh man, I wouldn't want to mess with the Nasty Knight.
I remember
Goldar.
I remember one of the villain figures was like the skeleton. JD, what was the name of the skeleton monster?
The Skella. I'm terrible with the monster.
But I remember being that was like one of with the 8-inch figures you were talking about. I remember seeing the skeleton like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's just a skeleton thing in general that I'm just kind of like, oh man, that's kind of creepy. But I remember looking at that like these are menacing creatures versus Rita, which is like, my dad hated Rita. Like back in the day when I used to watch Power Rangers, he used to hate Rita just because of the voice and like he thought she was annoying. Like he hated her voice. Like he hated the whole, I have such a headache, oh my God, make my monsters grow. Now I couldn't imagine Power Rangers without it, but at the time I can kind of see what he's saying. And obviously we got Lord Zed later on for season 2, and then they ended up downplaying him as well. So it's like it can't be annoying, but it can't be too menacing. So what they do, they married him.
Yeah.
So we hitched them up so we can downplay both sides and balance it, I guess. But no, so they fight Goldar. What I really enjoy is like remembering like the one-liners, like, you know, just throwaway lines too. Just kind of like Kimberly's like, oh, nice stereo, and Billy kind of just like, oh wow, I seem to know how to drive this somehow. Like, sure, why not? Because because Power Rangers. So just like little one-liners like that. You know?
One thing that I didn't, and I disconnected this when I was a kid, is that I was like, well, Billy was afraid to fight in civilian form. What makes him such a good fighter in his Ranger form? That's the one thing that I had a problem like translating over, but I always liked Billy.
I always assumed like it was just because like he felt more confident. Like the suit kind of fed information, I guess. I don't know. Just like
Maybe.
as soon as you get the
like
suit
the
on,
Iron Man suit, maybe like
Kinda.
it's a pre-programmed.
Exactly.
Do you think going into this, DJ, when you were a kid, you said that your favorite was Zach, and then as an adult, you became a Jason fan?
I was always a Jason fan, but I really liked Zach. Just because, I mean, in fact, I think you and I talked about this a couple of times where, I mean, Zach was one of the few African-American superheroes that we had as a kid outside of comic book form. You know what I mean? As far as live action translation as far as a black superhero.
Well, yeah, we were talking about the importance of black superheroes, and I think to me, one of the most important figures is Zach. Is the Black
absolutely,
Ranger,
absolutely.
'cause it's such an identifiable thing. So yeah, I think that was a cool thing.
Now, what I do hate is the fact that later on, and I'm sure as kids, we did not notice the fact that, you know, the Black Ranger was an African American and the Yellow Ranger was an Asian girl. I didn't associate it with that
They
at all,
didn't
obviously.
like it. They didn't like
But the thing is, if I was
about it.
if I was a Power Ranger though, I do like black. The black suit looks sick. I would have liked the black suit, you know what I mean? So I really like Zach a lot, but I always admired the character of Jason because he was the cool guy.
Zach was my third purchase of Power Ranger figure, actually.
I love it.
I actually remember sorry to cut you off.
No,
I do remember that the 2 of the 8-inch ones that I never got because they were so hard to find for me was I think it was Billy and Kimberly.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Everybody else I had. I just didn't have Billy. No, I'm sorry. I take that back. It was Trini and Billy.
Really?
Everybody else I had, yeah.
I remember as a kid, like I had to understand why I wanted to buy the pink and yellow figures, you know what I mean? Because as a kid, you're just like, oh, they're girl toys, but at the same time, like, I need them all.
Yeah.
And that was like the beginning of the end as far as being a completionist with like girl teens and guy teens. Because, you know, we had like Ninja Turtles. You collect Ninja Turtles, you have like weird creatures, but it was never a question as far as, are these guy toys or girl toys? Which, for the record, they're universal, anybody can collect. But at the time, I was like, man, I find myself like collecting pink stuff and Pink Ranger stuff and Trinity stuff. I remember even as a kid, just being the negotiator that I am, like, okay, Dad, when you buy this for me, say it's for my cousin. And he just like, my dad's looking at me like, why? No one cares. Just say it. But
Did he say it? Did he say it?
he did say it. No, shout out to my dad. You know what I mean? My dad was a great guy.
That's hilarious.
He did come through for me.
That's a great story.
Thank you.
So Kelly, growing up, you were a Pink Ranger fan.
Yes.
Now,
Well, okay. I think that being a Pink Ranger fan was kind of imposed on me a little bit because I was fairly young when this came out and it was on TV. So a lot of the merchandise I got was bought for me from my mom. And so I'm the only girl out of 4 brothers.
Jeez.
And so she kind of relished in buying me girly things.
Are you the youngest?
I am youngest.
Oh, you're the baby girl.
And so I think that automatically she wanted to, like, she had 4 boys and none of them were gonna like buy anything pink or any dolls or anything. So she always bought me like the pink one and stuff, which I do like, but I'm not necessarily sure I would have picked it.
Okay.
No, I kind of see what you're saying, because like when I was younger, like my mom's name is Violet. Her favorite color is purple, hence Violet. You know what I mean? As a kid, I swear part of her bedtime story routine was saying, you know, be good, da da da, like color purple, whatever. She's Filipino. Okay, the reason why I'm talking like that, by the way, she's Filipino. Like, why'd you think she just sounds weird? But it actually stuck with me. Actually, for the record, my favorite color is purple now.
Yeah.
Whether she kind of planted the seeds or not, my favorite color is purple. My favorite Ninja Turtle was Donatello, and it just kind of continued on, so I kind of see what you're saying. We have the Rangers, they fight Goldar, they don't finish him off per se, they form the Megazord for the first time.
Can't finish him off in the first episode.
No, of course not, but Goldar is a very recurring character. He does have a lot of time in Power Ranger history.
Yes.
So we talked about the fights, we talked about the practical effects. Let's take it back to the resolution, I guess. The whole Saved by the Bell moment. So
Yeah.
They end up back at the command center,
Yes,
and
we do.
Zach, like you said, informs them like we got pretty lucky this time.
Yeah.
hesitant.
He was hesitant. He was the most hesitant looking back now. Now I understand what you're saying. He might have been the cool, confident kid, but in that terms, he was definitely
He's
insecure.
basically like, this is a lot of responsibility. Are we ready for it?
Sure.
I like how but that's the rationalization though. 'Cause that
Yeah.
is overlooked when I was a kid. I did not see that. But I like that they take the challenge and they become the Power Rangers.
Goldar escapes, they have their first battle and Ranger up as Power Rangers, so they're new superheroes.
Is it all on board?
They're kind of on board. We get the finale in the command center where they make the choice. So
Yes.
like you said, Zach is hesitant.
Was it a choice though? I don't really think it was a
It was
choice.
forced upon him.
I think it was I felt like it was forced.
Because how do you say no at that point? It's
'Cause
like, hey,
it was-
the fate of the world's in your hands. All right, yeah, I'm out.
Well,
Like,
no.
Okay, for the record, you could and would do that. If you didn't want to do something, you're not going to do it.
I know.
And I'm the same way. So
Nobody's gonna force me to do anything. Zordon,
Yeah, I believe
go
that.
screw
But I
yourself.
do believe it was Zach
You've been
who
chosen.
was like,
I
who
choose
was
to
like,
leave.
oh, we don't, are we ready for this?
Sure.
And then Zordon's basically like, yeah, you're ready. You were chosen. This is your job. Congrats. Like I don't really feel like a choice.
Well, let me
was
ask
put
you-
in. He was like,
And the
no,
realistic
you're doing
terms too,
this.
you
Pretty
gotta
much,
think like
pretty much.
you gotta assume they're freshmen in high school because they spend 4 years there, legit 4 years.
Well,
There's a
spend a-
So they're 15.
yeah, there's a lot of responsibility for a 15-year-old.
There's some pretty buff 15-year-olds.
yeah, they were pretty. Okay, really quick. Did any of you guys go to high school and just look around, kind of like, I thought we would be a little bit more mature
Yeah.
looking?
Yes.
Where's Kelly Kapowski? I just don't see that happening.
I will say, no joking. When I went to a private high school, Bishop Montgomery High School, I was gonna shout out to my old alma mater. My freshman year, I went there. The trope of Billy existed in real life in
really?
that school. Yes, there was a few, and I was like, oh my God, it's like go real life Billy, like straight up pocket protector, glasses.
Oh, I was like, what do you mean by that?
Like this dude, and I'm gonna shout him out, Mike Corso. Mainly because he played on our football team too, and so he was a cool guy. I really liked Mike a lot. But he was Billy, like straight up, like he was the nerd, glasses, had the pocket protector,
the complete character.
complete character. And I was like, oh wow, it's real, like it's a real Billy.
That's cool.
But Mike he was a cool kid. Like I liked him a lot.
But I was super disappointed in high school. I just felt like now that we're in high school, why don't I look like anything, or why don't we collectively look like anything I've seen on TV? Like where's my Lisa Turtle? Where's like I was really looking for like all that. Like thank God AC Slater wasn't real, because that dude was like, you know what I'm saying, a Greek god compared to what we were in high school. I'm just saying.
Well, one thing that was kind of crazy for me growing up, because we had such a racially diverse group of friends growing up, that Power Rangers was completely normal to me in terms of like the mixed cultures.
No, that was fine.
And
sure.
I was like, oh yeah, it's normal. But then, and when you get to a different, then after that, you get to public high school, and it's very segregated with who hung out with who.
Yeah.
So it's a lot different. Angel Grove was a before Rita got there, must have been a really pleasant place.
It must have been and then it just went downhill after that.
Yeah. It is a lot of responsibility to be a Power Ranger, though. I agree.
But they also
Yeah.
didn't put that much of a fight either. I mean, they were convinced like all of 5 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, hey, can we really do it? Yes. Okay, I'm in.
Would you have taken the responsibility?
Oh man, as a 15-year-old?
Would you take it now?
Yes.
I wouldn't.
Yes.
There's no way. I have too much going on to spend my time.
Okay, that's you thinking as an adult. I'm thinking like it's a chance to be a superhero.
I would say yes.
I don't think I would do it. I don't think I would do it.
To me, for the Power Rangers, it felt more of like that story of.
Think about everything though. You're
Okay,
risking.
we realized you really would say no.
No, but you got to think like you're risking a lot. You're risking your life. You're risking. I mean, I understand. That's fine.
Yeah, but they're
That's
15.
cool.
I don't think
That
they're really
part's
thinking
fine.
about that.
That part's fine. You're risking your life. That's fine. That's
I
cool.
don't know. I probably would hesitate. I would be Zach. I probably would hesitantly do it.
This is the way I see it. Say yes now. If I can't keep up with it, hey, we gave it a shot. At least that.
Yes.
At least that. But to say I'm not even going to try to morph, like I'm at least going to take the morpher. I'm going to play around with that for at least a couple of days. Kind of be like, well, I tried it. I liked it. Doesn't fit with the schedule, unfortunately, but I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you didn't work out. I'm keeping the morpher.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you're going to turn that in? Turn what in? And we're out. We're good. All right, so Joe, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so now that we're looking back, because last week we got a chance to check out the pilot episode. Have you ever seen the pilot episode?
The Lost episode. The Lost.
The lo-
pilot
I don't
episode.
think I have.
It's literally the pilot / lost episode. It's basically what they used to pitch the show to networks. It was still called Day of the Dumpster.
Yeah.
So we talked about that, and we are able to see the changes from the pilot up until
There was
the first
a
episode.
different Trini.
I heard about that.
Yep, she was a completely different Trini. She was much more of a tomboy. She had a pixie cut, short hair. She wasn't even Asian. So the whole association, and there is some merit to that argument too, as far as saying the Asian Ranger. Oh, I'm sorry, the Asian Ranger, the Yellow Ranger being Asian.
So do
I'm
you
not going to
think-
live that down anytime soon.
As a producer, do you think that the people seeing the pilot said, oh, we want a little bit more diversity here?
Yes.
Okay.
I think there's a couple reasons why that
There's
happened.
a couple
and I'm not
reasons,
gonna.
yeah.
I think one of them was definitely a racial thing. I 100%. And also, I think that the other one had to do with the length of her hair. To be honest with you, because they wanted somebody to look more feminine.
There's also an issue of demands as well.
I mean, as a producer though, you don't. That's not.
Demands for ethnicity?
No, more for the actor who was playing.
Yeah. Again, as a producer though,
That's been verified a couple times.
That's. I mean, but as a producer, that's something that you're. That's the least of your worries. You're trying to figure out like. I mean, obviously, it plays into a factor of why it doesn't happen. But I think the real studio note was that we want somebody who looks more feminine, and we need somebody that's Asian because that's something that's missing. I think those are the two big network notes that they probably got back.
I know that has to do with it as well, but I will say this. I mean, as far as everyone knows at this point, the actors weren't paid a lot.
No.
They weren't paid a lot for them to want anything. I mean, if you got the job, you were excited for the opportunity and you're excited because, hey, it's a new show, not expecting it to become like the worldwide phenomenon that is Power Rangers 20 plus years later. But at the time, it did make sense for them to want more accepting that job because they were basically getting paid peanuts. I mean, not to downplay it, but unfortunately they weren't getting necessarily what a union actor would make. So,
Are
but
the Power
Joe's
Ranger
right.
actors now getting paid more than the...
They're getting paid more,
It's
but
better,
still not union.
but it's still not unionized.
Okay.
But there was a point in time where Power Rangers was unionized, and then they
under the Disney era.
correct, and then it went back to non-union just because it's just kind of easier to manage. So Joe, now that we've seen our revisit to the first episode, rate this episode, man, 1 through 5. Just give me your feelings.
1 through 5. I'm gonna say it's a solid 4.
Why is that?
Because it sets up the continuity, it sets up the Rangers, it introduces everybody, it introduces the characteristics that you're gonna come to know and love.
Sure.
But it gives it to you in a small dose, and nothing is slow or boring in this episode.
Sure.
I think it's well thought out, and I think it has more charm being in a juice bar than it is at a bowling alley.
And for basically his references in the pilot episode of Day of the Dumpster, their hangout was a bowling alley.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that changed. So for Kelly, fresh eyes, going back with us, rate this episode.
To be completely honest, I would give it a 3.5 solely because I usually never like the first episode of any series. When I'm trying to watch something on Netflix
Of any series?
or anything, I'll at least watch 2 to 3 episodes of any new series I'm trying to start to see if I'll actually like
4,
it.
I give it 4.
Because
Sure.
I usually don't like the first one.
Interesting.
Because there's too much backstory going on. There's not enough action. You don't know what's going on. You're not given enough information. And so I feel like the first one is like, oh, they're throwing in a lot of stuff to kind of pull viewers in.
So more exposition than actual just
Yes.
entertainment, I guess.
Yes, I mean, the fight scene was very short.
Sure.
So is a Zord fight.
which would make you happy because
Because
you're
it's
not
all
a Ahsoka.
introduction. It's all introduction. So for me, I'm not a fan of pilot episodes usually. Although I did love that Westworld pilot. That was.
Westworld was
Damn dog. Yeah, I agree.
What the?
I mean, I didn't even like the first Game of Thrones
Damn
episode.
dog.
I thought it was super weird.
No, it's just Game of Thrones. Game
It
of
was
Thrones.
weird.
I don't remember the first
It
episode.
was.
I remember.
I remember the first episode of Game of Thrones because guess who finally binge watched the entire series?
How do you like it?
Love it.
Okay.
Super obsessed, super obsessed. I don't know how anybody watches this episode by episode. by the way.
It's painful.
I don't know how anyone did that.
Honestly,
We
I
all saw the
forgot all that
finale at
stuff.
your place.
All right, sounds good.
No, we already did. Remember when
Oh, wait,
we
what are you
had-
talking about?
when we saw the finale with you and your grandpa?
Oh, that's right. Now I remember.
Yeah, I was excited because I
Now
didn't
I
get it,
remember.
didn't watch it. Now I'm up to date. I feel part of the population.
That was so much fun.
So no, I would give this episode a 5 in my heart, but the actual episode itself, I would say like a solid 4.
Okay.
I would give it a solid 4. Man, certain things do not age well, but there's certain things that are undeniable, which is like the casting. They're likable kids. There's someone to.
But they're not necessarily teenagers with attitudes, though.
Oh no, they're definitely
That's-
not. They were more teenagers with attitude in the pilot episode. In the pilot episode, they were all confrontational. Zach was all about, man, what you want to do, son? I mean, he was like,
I kind of wish they had more of that.
They're the perfect students. Like they're
no.
straight
I'm
students.
with you. It's just it was never gonna happen.
I will say this though: once we get you're going to get introduced to more characters along the way, and a few of them leave.
Yeah.
And then the ones that they get replaced by, though, I like their arcs because they're not like one of them is just not smart. He's not a smart
Yeah.
dude.
We're gonna leave that one alone for the time being.
I wanted to see a season based in Stone Canyon now. Because
Interesting.
I think that it would be cool to have like a throwback. Like I almost wish that Megaforce was in Stone Canyon.
Sure, just
because
kinda-
it would have been like, oh well, now we're getting to see the other. And then at this point, now you see the other kids from Angel Grove be those antagonists, the people that we always see. I thought that.
And Stone Canyon for you, Kelly. Stone Canyon is the rival school to Angel Grove High.
Okay.
So that's basically their main rivals, and it's like the only other school that exists for a long time.
Let's talk over some fun facts about the Power Rangers pilot.
start it off.
Kelly brought up a great point. So David Fielding, who was used as Zordon, only shot one day.
One day.
Film
Yeah,
one
day.
very, very
of
true.
Video
And
footage.
they used that for
Everything.
hundreds of
Just
episodes.
everything.
But also, to follow up on that, it actually wasn't his voice either. So he shot one day, and somebody else dubbed him for the remainder
I
of the
believe that
duration.
is Robert Marhan, if I'm not mistaken, which is crazy to me that it was a one-day shoot, and he is forever going to be recognized as Zordon for that one.
He's immortalized in the fandom for sure.
Yes, he is.
He goes to conventions, you know his face, you have seen his face very up close, and that is Zordon. He is immortalized in our hearts as Zordon.
Another fun fact is that, and we talked about this last week, Ernie from the Juice Bar was originally supposed to be Zordon in humanoid form to watch over the
Okay.
Rangers.
That blew my mind. I look at
That
a lot
would've
of
been cool.
I look at a lot of trivia. That's the first I've ever heard about
That was a
one.
BuzzFeed trivia, actually.
Well, that's dope.
Another fun fact is that Jason was the youngest actor on the set
Yep.
for them. He was 17 at the time, like DJ said.
Mm-hmm.
David Yost and Amy Jo Johnson, they were both gymnasts, obviously.
Yep.
You could tell.
Yeah, you can tell.
Yep.
What are some fun facts we have here?
Walter Jones has one finger.
Walter Jones is missing a finger.
One finger missing.
Yes.
Saber-toothed tigers are not dinosaurs.
Neither are mastodons.
Mastodons.
Technically pterodactyls either, I think. They discounted them.
Pterodactyls
Did they
were dinosaurs.
really?
I feel like there was something to do with like the flying ones, which is like, well, it didn't exist with them, but it kind of exists here. Like a different like era, I guess.
I
don't
thought
know.
that-
Don't quote me on that, by the way.
I thought pterodactyls are supposed to be like. It's possible that pterodactyls have evolved into some
Birds.
creature that we've known the surviving dinosaur, basically.
Sure.
That's transformed and evolved into creatures of today.
But T-Rex sure the heck is a dinosaur.
The Power Ranger,
I'll agree with that.
the Power Ranger actors for the first season or so were paid $500 a week.
Yeah, they, again, not to delve too much into it, but they weren't paid a lot even after its booming success, which actually did lead up to casting changes.
Can I ask you guys something about this real quick? As kids,
No?
we all saw the promotion for the Power Rangers. Did you watch the premiere, or do you know like right around what episode you started watching and what caught your interest?
I know exactly which one I did, but you can start off.
Well, mine was the first episode I saw was it's either Power Punks. I'm pretty sure it's Power Punks are the one where Uncle Steve takes Kimberly flying. I actually think that probably was the first episode. I know exactly which episode it was.
But what made you watch it? Was it because of the promos and stuff?
No, actually, it was my friends. I had no interest in it.
Sure. You know what's funny? That's like you today. That's totally you now.
Yes.
I had no interest in
I
it.
had no interest in it, and then Josh told me about it. I was all about it.
I had zero interest in Power Rangers. My friends, Daniel, who's on Hashtag Show, I've known the guy for like 30 years. That dates me a little bit, but I'm not that. Well, I've known him for a long time, 25 years or so. But we were kids.
I thought you said he dates you a little bit.
No. We were kids, and me, him, my friend Tony, and our friend Fernando, and this girl Nicole that we all used to hang out with, they were into it. And then they were like, oh, it's really good, you should watch it. And I was like, dude, I'm not gonna watch this show. And then I was like, all right, I'll watch it. And then I loved it. And then I bought everything Power Rangers.
Right away you were hooked.
Yeah, and funny enough, we don't get this a lot anymore. Power Rangers was on 5 days a week. Like,
Yes,
this is something
I missed that.
It was called they call it strip shows or variety shows because they're on every single day.
Yep.
When we were kids, it was the thing that would come on almost like when you got home.
It's an after-school show.
Yeah, it was an after-school
completely
show.
an after-school show.
So in terms of like how kids watch TV nowadays, there's not a lot of TV shows that are daily like that. There are some that are still out there, but not a lot. But Power Rangers, that's why in season 1 is 61 episodes.
Yeah.
Is because it came on 5 days a week for X amount of time. And another thing too is Power Rangers also, a lot of those episodes are standalone episodes. I mean, we do get into double parters later on, but there's not a ton of double parters in the first season. There's a few.
Are you saying that's better or just different?
I think it's better mainly because it doesn't, like for example, I didn't have to watch the first episode in order to understand what Power Rangers
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I picked it up in episode like
still,
13.
It's still kind of that way though, even now. Like a lot of episodes are.
I mean, well, there's a, I don't know about that because if, for example, if you watch Dino Charge, there's an overlying story arc I mean, there's a lesson for sure, but there's an overlying story arc in which you can get lost out of it because you don't necessarily know what the overall arc of that season is. Whereas in Power Rangers, for example, the Energems of Dino Charge are the reason they're trying to get these Energems.
It's a plot device.
Power Rangers season 1 doesn't have that.
I will say this, I absolutely agree with you with season 1 and possibly season 2, but eventually it does become a soap opera. It does eventually become an ongoing.
Season 1 is besides the Green with Evil, and I think
arcs.
Yeah, I think one is called Teamwork, is a 2-parter also, and Gung Ho is another 2-parter.
Yeah.
But those, and Island of Illusion. But those are the ones that I can remember being like 2-parter episodes or multi-parter episodes. Whereas in season 2, you're right. Like it
became the Lord Zed story. Tommy losing his powers.
It was definitely way more of a trope to. Actually, I take that back. Actually, even in season 1 and towards the end of season 1, I'm not going to spoil it for you. What happens with Tommy, that is a overlying storyline where you do kind of get a sense of like, I need to know what's going on.
It's kind of funny because I was doing the opposite where I'm just like, I kind of give it to you with like half of season 1. But eventually, I mean, one thing that I associate, like that's the Bond era of Power Rangers is the fact that it is ongoing. With hence, bringing the actors to different powers with different suits, but they're the same people. You have to find a way to make it work, you know what I mean? Like,
we don't get there even.
Now we have individual seasons. Now we have individual just standalones and trying to see if you like the season or not based on the themes, where before they would find a way to kind of just keep upgrading and upgrading even if you didn't like the explanation behind it.
Sure.
Now for me, my cousins, plural, they were, I remember them buying the 8-inch toys. I remember looking at the design and it was the packaging that intrigued the heck out of me.
The triangle boxes?
Yes.
Yeah.
But more specifically, the evolution morph between the actor to the ranger, or it was like the actor, the dinosaur, and them coming together, and like the center one was like the ranger helmet. So I remember looking at that like, this is really cool, and I'm looking at the designs, and this is just the collector in me talking as a kid, but I'm just like, man, this is cool. It's like it has a T-Rex in the helmet. I remember looking at the designs like, man, this is dope. This is really, really cool. And I think the first episode I saw was like Sylvia. I mean, I don't know how many episodes into it. I mean, it was pretty early though.
It was early. I think that if my memory serves right, I know exactly. It's the Pineapple Clown.
Yeah. It was an early-ish episode.
I want to say, if I had to guess, and after we're probably gonna look this up, I think that.
Or you guys can let us know in the comments below too.
I think that's episode 8.
Okay, because I felt like I jumped in the 5th episode, and I was just like, man, this is really, really cool. This is like cool action. I grew up on Jackie Chan and martial arts, and that's essentially what Sentai and Tokusatsu is. Say what you want about Power Rangers, the actors and the stunt suited actors from Japan, and even now in the States, the production team and the actual team of stunt guys, they put in a lot of work to give us these fights. You know, we get into Yeah, absolutely.
It shows through.
Absolutely. And like you were saying, like you could say like the Japanese fights and the stunts, like they're really on form. You take away the color coordinated spandex and they were doing some pretty dope scenes. That was before we got into like season 2 and 3 where every single fight took place in a park and it was kind of whatever.
So now fresh eyes here.
Yes.
And I'll ask you too. We'll all look at this with fresh eyes. Who's your favorite Ranger based on this? Because we're gonna go down, like, and it's gonna change throughout the season.
Sure.
Or throughout the episodes. Who's your favorite Ranger based on episode number 1 right now, as adults watching this?
I'm gonna go with Billy.
You?
Now,
Yeah.
Jason.
Mine is Billy as well. Yeah. So that's gonna do it for us.
Oh, that's gonna do it for us. We're gonna get into our Morphin list, and here it comes. Okay, guys, our Morphin list for the very first episode of Power Rangers: Day of the Dumpster. Top 5 nostalgia moments or nostalgic.
Top 5 nostalgic memories from the first episode.
Thank
Here
you.
we go. Kelly, why don't you kick us off, mainly because you're new to the show.
Oh, for me, it's definitely the sound effects. Definitely brought me back to the 90s.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Sound effects are pretty solid. DJ, what's number 4?
Number 4 for me is the music. I miss Ron Weiserman, and to me, that added so much character to the show itself. So I do miss the music.
Number 3 for me is the juice bar. I actually missed the fact that they had this spot to hang out at that they did, because so many of the episodes are going to take place, and that juice bar is going to become one of the most important pieces of history.
It's not going
Power
anywhere.
Ranger universe history. I said history twice.
The mythos.
Number 2.
Number 2, I think Kelly brought this up, is the fights.
Yes.
The fights. So the unmorphed fights and being able to see the athletes and the athletic prowess of the actors.
And yeah, I think that the unmorphed fight scenes are so charming. I remember as a kid, we would always beat the crap out of each other with our own personal unmorphed fight scenes.
You're the reasons why the parents were up in arms, basically.
I was, pretty much. I used to practice all those moves on my friends.
So our number 1 top nostalgia moment, or nostalgia, for some reason I can't say it for anything. Anyway, our number 1 top nostalgia is what?
Is definitely going to be the practical effects and the miniature city. How cool was that? I think the practical effects in the Zord fight scenes were pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, even
camera tricks, I think too.
The camera tricks, the way the Zords are introduced from, again, just the way they come from the earth and just seeing them come together, miniatures, practical fights, stunts.
Yeah, I mean, think about this, because we can almost make our own Power Rangers show. We got to take the Japanese footage, integrate it with what we do, and that's Power Rangers.
We can make the hashtag Power Rangers.
Hey, that's already in the works. That's actually already in the works. To be continued with, but that is in the works. But I think all of those things were really cool. Now, your questions and comments will be addressed on next week's episode, so stay tuned for that. Kelly, where can we find you?
You can find me on all social media at Cranky Cupcakes with a Z at the end.
Oh, no, because I have the Cranky Cupcakes with the S at the end.
So you don't want to get confused.
DJ, where can we find you?
Since I gave him the peer pressure from that hashtag show, you can look me up at d.j.rivers on Facebook.
No, it's new. Oh, yeah, okay.
But you can still look me up as DJ with dots in it. d.j.rivers on Facebook and Instagram.
No, Instagram, your name's different now.
But you can still look me up by it.
Oh, you can? You can find it that way?
Well, fine. Black Capino.
I just wanted to really say that.
Is that what it was?
No, you actually, because I tried, I was like, dude, I can't find, I was trying to tag you in something because it wasn't.
It still comes up that way.
It won't for me for some reason. I had it, and I was
Did you
like,
use the periods?
yeah. For some reason.
Did you use the periods?
I did use the periods. But
Remember those dots?
Because I looked at it and I was like, oh, so because you changed your name, I was like, I gotta have a look.
I might change it, but either way, find Joe. I'll be tagged in something.
Yeah.
I'll be around.
You can follow me at that hashtag Joe. You can, Joe Deckelmeyer is my Facebook page. I'm on Twitter as that hashtag Joe. You can find me on social media, just, you'll figure it out.
If you find him, you'll find us.
Yeah, you'll find everybody. But that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. Next week, we're going to be back with another Retro Ranger wrap-up. That's a mouthful to say. Kelly, thanks for joining us. She's going to be a staple here every single week. Obviously, you know DJ and I already. Hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with everything trending.
In-game pop culture.